Right. So hi everyone. So welcome to my class. So today we are going to continue with our lesson, and that is we're going to continue with the topic 12, which is about support, movement, and locomotion. So it would be very, very useful if you could take out your notes right now, and I will actually show it here as well. Excuse me. Right, where is, oh, here, sorry. Right, so you should have, you all should already have this notes with you. Okay, so I've given it to you guys as a while sudah. So firstly, what we're going to do is we're just going to briefly recall about the functions of our skeleton, okay, because the topic is about support, movement, and locomotion, and we have actually established that all of these are actually enabled because we have our bones, okay, our skeleton, as well as our muscles, okay? And so just briefly recalling what are they for. So all of these, our bones and our muscles, what are they for? Firstly, they are, as you can see here, they are for support. So it's for supporting our body, so to give its rigid shape supaya badan kami ada ia punya shape-nya. Okay, so that's pretty much straightforward. And number two is quite obvious, as you can see here, is for movement. Okay, so of course, when you want to move from one place to another place, okay, you would need to move your muscles. Okay, and how does your body actually get from one place to another place? Is they use the muscles, and these muscles are actually attached to your bones. Okay, and that enables it to to get from one place to the other place, right? And we've also discussed about the differences between locomotion, so as you can see here, so the differences between locomotion as well as movement. Okay, so we've talked about locomotions. What are they? When, as you can see here, locomotion refers to the movement of the entire body from one place to another. Right? So if you sit and then you just simply move your arms around, this is what you call as movement. Okay? But if you sit and then you walk to the other side, and then you are getting from one place to another, that is what we call as locomotion. Okay, so we have established that before. And last time, I've also introduced to you guys about the names of bones. Okay, so the name of bones, so which will actually, as you can see from, wait, sorry. It should be available, oh, here, sorry. Okay, it should be available from your notes as well. Okay, we've discussed this before, right? So we've looked at cranium, we've looked at mandible, we've looked at our vertebrae. Okay, so our vertebrae is our vertebral column, our spine, right? And we've also looked about your clavicle. So this is your clavicle, right? And we've looked at the important bits. Okay, the important bits, your yang di belakang. Okay, yang di belakang kami panggil as scapula. Okay, your shoulder blade, right? So your scapula, and then another important. Okay, the ones around your arms are actually quite important. So these are the ones that you need to remember, right? So what are they? You need to remember your scapula, your shoulder blade, as you can see from the diagram as well. And then you have your upper arm. So your upper arms here is what they call the humerus. And then if you hold your hands out, hold your arms out, then you can have on top here, this is what you call as the radius. And ada bawah, tulang ada bawah, kami panggil as ulna. Right? So R radius, U ulna, under. Okay, so that's how you remember. Right? So those are the ones that the bones, the important bones that you need to remember, right? So kalau anything you couldn't remember, Kalau tu minyak pun, that's fine as well, right? So what else that you should know? You should know about your breastbone or your sternum, right? So which is, you can see here. You got your ribs, right? So these are your ribs. And for some reason, they also ask you about your pelvis, okay? Because pelvis, they have a slightly different types of joints, which we'll have a look later what are joints, right? They have a slightly different types of joints compared to your arms, okay? All right, so we'll have a look. You should know about joints, about the pelvis, right? And arah pelvis, your same thing, arah kaki, arah bawah, arah paha kamu is what you call the femur. And then kaki kamu, your lower leg, arah bagian depan kami panggil tibia, bagian belakang kami panggil fibula, and arah your kneecap is what we call as patella, right? So those are the different types of bones, different names of bones that we know, right? And excuse me. So if you go back to your notes here, it says here that the bones are covered at joints by cartilage, ligaments connect bones to another bones, and tendons connect muscles to bones. So here, we've discussed this before. So kalau tulang, okay, so for example, there's the region here, okay, so you have your radius and your ulna, and you have your humerus. So this is the place where they meet. Okay, so the place where your bones meet, okay, so this place here, what you call as joints, okay, and your bones, okay, your bones ani, it would be siring-siringnya ada muscles, right? So as you know that they have muscles that is acting kira macam ia punya levernya to pull, whether to pull or to push the muscles, what do you call it? The skeleton away from your body, right? And the bones are covered at joints by cartilage. So this one I've discussed before as well. The arah ujung-ujung yang macam tulang ayam yang kamu makan, right? Yang putih-putih itu. So those are what we call as cartilage. And then ligament connects bones to another bones. So between the bones here, okay, and the bones here, ada ia punya gum or kira macam talinya, tali untuk sambungkan this bone to another bone. So the joining between one bone to another bone is what we call as ligament, whereas the joining between your muscles to your bone, okay, between the muscles to your bones is what we call as your tendons, right? So essentially, that's all that is, right? So at the end, kamu mesti ingatkan. So here, bones is a hard, flexible to a certain extent. Cartilage is a rubbery protein secreted by cells. It cushions the ends of the bones at joints, act as a shock absorber, and provides smooth surface. So we'll have a look later, nanti, when we look at our synovial joints, right? And connective tissues. The connective tissues is essentially made up of your ligaments and tendons. So ligaments connecting bones with bones. And mana ia boleh connect because it is elastic. So elastic maksudnya it can be bent, it can be stretched. So when you pull your arms, kalau tangan kamu kena tarik, so artinya tangan kamu tidak akan putus dari tangan kamu. Tangan kamu tidak akan putus dari tangan kamu. Right? So because apa? Because ada elastic fiber. Artinya macam ada gatah. Right? And this actually allows freedom of movement at joints. So with this elastic, so it allows this kind of movement, right? Other certain movements that they allow. and tendons are inelastic fiber which pull muscles and bones together. So apa ni, lain dari ligament, kami ada tendon. So tendon dari muscle to our bones, and kalau ini ia inelastic. Artinya maksudnya tu kami punya muscle tu kami dapat cabut dari tulang kami. Okay, so we can't pull our muscles away from our bones because the connection between our muscle to our bone is inelastic. Ia bukannya macam gatah. So ia merakat terus macam gum, you know, gum bersirap, right? So it's very kuat. So it's simply just rakat semata saja, right? So they are inelastic. Right. And before we move on to joints, okay, we should briefly look about the muscles below, right? So the types of muscles, and you should know that there are two types of muscles. Okay, our muscles we can group them into two, right? Satu kami panggil as voluntary muscles, dua kami panggil involuntary muscles. So this is quite straightforward. Kalau voluntary, maksudnya apa? Muscle yang kami boleh kontrol dengan pemikiran kami. Okay, so we can control it with our own thoughts. So for example, your bicep and your triceps. Okay, so for example, you want to curl your arms. So okay, I want to flex, right? So what you do, you know, for example, you saw your girlfriend walking, and suddenly, oh, I feel strong. So then you want to flex and everything about, right? And but as you make the decisions that you want to flex, you make the decisions that you want to contract your muscles. Okay, you want to contract or you want to relax your muscles. So it depends, right? And these type of muscles, they are quite special because the type of muscle fibers, as you can see here, is that they are striated muscles. So apa maksud striated muscles? So artinya ia ada macam garis-garis, right? So ia ada macam garis-garis ada muscle tissues-nya. So that's what it means. And for involuntary muscles, so from the name itself again, is that they are not controlled by your thoughts. Kamu dapat pikirkan ia sendirinya bekerja. Okay, so contohnya macam the muscles, your smooth muscles along your esophagus, the peristalsis, right? So you don't have to worry about when you eat. You need to contract the muscles in your face. Aku mesti contractkan dulu. I mesti pikir. Pikir. No, right? So you don't have to do that. So it's automatically being done, right? So that's why it's saying that it works automatically. Di mana ada your intestine for peristalsis. Apalagi example-nya ada your iris, ada mata kamu. Okay, we've looked before that our iris, we have our radial and sacral muscles. So these are the muscles that control the pupil size. Okay, so they control the pupil size, whether the light can enter a lot or less, right? So those ones. And there's another special type of muscles. Okay, it's a type of involuntary muscle, and this special type of muscles is what we call as the cardiac muscle. Okay, so cardiac muscles is essentially your heart muscle, okay? Muscle arah jantung kami, right? So this type of muscle is quite special because they can beat on its own, right? If you take your heart out of your chest, literally they can beat on its own, okay? Because they consist of a special group of cells, okay? Which we'll have a look. You will have a look when you go to A level, actually, right? So they can beat on its own, and these group of muscles is a type of involuntary muscles, right? And if you can see here, right, it says draw a simple diagram of the three types of muscles. So I think the drawings, let me just show you how the drawing should look like. Okay, so this is the drawing. So this is the drawing that you should have for your, what was it earlier? For your skeletal muscles. Okay, so kalau skeletal muscles kami, so skeletal muscles, so essentially you have so they actually have nucleus and they are striated. So striated, this is the ones that we call as striated. Okay, they actually have multiple nucleus, so they're multi-nucleated. Right, so striated ni lah macam ni. Okay, so this is your skeletal muscles. Another one is your smooth muscles. Okay, kalau smooth muscles macam mana drawingsnya? Okay, so kalau smooth muscles drawingsnya, sekejap ah. Let me oh, here. So kalau smooth muscles drawingsnya macam mana? Ia ada macam ia ada branches. Okay, I don't know lah. But ia ada branches and they have nucleus. Okay, dia in the striated. And kalau cardiac muscle is quite similar to your smooth muscle. So they are branch. Okay, so the drawing is very bad, but this is the best that I could do for now. I'll show you guys the pictures later as well. Okay, so this is the drawings now. And wanted to share. To share. Now we're back to okay, so now we are back to here. Okay, so draw a simple diagram. So I'll have to show you. So perhaps you could find this a much better diagram. You could look through Google. Okay, so that'll be your task. Okay, and we've discussed about skeleton, we've discussed about the function, so I'm going to skip that for now. Right, so this is the one that I want to focus on. Okay, the structures of your forelimb or your forearms. Okay, so forelimbs, forearms, apa maksudnya is tangan kamu. Right, so tangan kamu. It is made up of four main bones: your scapula, arah belakang, your humerus, your radius, arah atas, and your ulna, arah bawah. So these are the four main bones. And there are different types of joints between these bones. So yang pentingnya ada dua joints yang penting. Okay, dua pertemuan tulang yang penting yang kami masih tahu. So number one, cakapnya between the scapula and the humerus at the shoulder is what we call is the ball and socket joint. So arah tulang kami arah atas sini. Okay, arah atas sini, this area here between your scapula and your humerus, sini ni, this is jointsnya kami panggil ball and socket, and the second one between humerus and ulna at the elbow is the hinge joint. So between the humerus and the ulna, okay, tulang bawah is your hinge joint, right? So ball and socket, hinge joint. right? So, and you can feel it as well, the type of movements that they allow, right? So kalau arah atas sini, you can feel that you can do much more freely. Okay, the movements that you can do is much more freely. It's more or less about 360-degree movement. Okay, so you can do this. Actually, there's 3 planes that you can do. So the first plane, so you can go up, down, down. First plane, so Y, steering, cemani, X, and you can do cemani also, diagonally. So kalau diagonally is your Z. So 3 planes. So 1, 2, and 3. So ada 3 planes. Yeah. So this ball and socket is actually the joint which allows the greatest movement. Okay, as opposed to kalau kami lihat arah kami punya hinge joint. Kalau hinge joint, you can't move your apa ni, your forearm relative to here to the side. Kamu dia dapat gerakkan ke siring tulang kamu ni. Okay, dia dapat bergerak macam mana. The only movement that you can allow is macam ni. Right? So this, it means that it only allows one plane of movement, right? So hanya satu saja. So this is the hinge joint. Right? Movement of the forelimbs, right? Movement of the forelimbs is brought about by a pair of skeleton muscles, bicep and tricep, which act antagonistically to each other, right? So you have heard of this word before, antagonistic, right? So apa maksud antagonistic? So you should be able to remember what it means is that when one muscle contracts, the other muscle should be relaxing. Okay, so where have we heard of the example before? It was out of your eyes, out of the iris of your eyes. And now we've also looked at out of your bicep and your tricep. Okay, muscle sini atas sama muscle bawah, bicep, tricep. Right? And they work antagonistic. Maksudnya kalau bicep contract, yang bawah sini relax. Kalau di atas relax, yang di bawah contract. So that's what it means, right? And here, the table below summarizes the action of these muscles during bending or flexing and straightening of the forearm. So this one is, I think you can do this quite easily as well. Okay, so if you try to do this now, so let's say sharing, and we'll have a look from here instead. Yes, okay. So please excuse that drawing. So now what we are looking at is the actions. What happens to our bicep? What happens to our triceps when we are actually bending, flexing? So when we bend, okay. So kiranya kamu berjumpa girlfriend kamu, so segala-galanya takkan di flex-flexnya, okay, kembang-kembangan, right? So apa ia buat ia flexing, right? So apa sudah ditanya apa flexing, apa jadi arah muscle-nya, dah tahu, beri malu, okay? So when you flex, okay, when you are actually flexing, what happens? Your bicep, okay, abang sado kamu, your bicep will actually contract. Okay, and because bicep contract, your tricep will actually relax. Okay, and this action will actually put your hand, okay, closer to your face. Okay, what they will do is they will pull hand to body. Okay, so this is kira the results, right? And when we straighten our arms, okay, so lawan bending is straighten. Okay, masa kami straighten our arms, so apa menjadi arah our bicep? Okay, so obviously our bicep will now, kalau masa bending, masa flexing, bicep can contract. Now, when we straighten our arms, our bicep will actually relax, but our tricep will be the one that will contract. Okay, and as a result, they will actually pull hand away from body. Okay, so maksudnya ia larikan tangan kamu jauh dari diri kamu. So it's straightened. Okay, so it's getting further from your body. And if we go back to here, right? So that would be the answer to this. Okay, we can, there's actually a picture that I wanted to show you as well. So it would be this picture. Okay, so as you can see here, this is what happens when you flexion of your forearms. So flexion of your forearms maksudnya apa? You are flexing. Berjumpa girlfriend, flexing. Okay, so kalau kamu lihat sini, the biceps brachii. Okay, the biceps brachii. So it simply means your biceps punya muscles. They contract. So you see here, it contracted. Whereas our triceps, so our triceps ini relax. So they relax. So apa menjadi? They will actually pull our forearms, our radius and our ulna. They pull it nearer. Okay, so they pull it closer. Hampir dengan badan kami. This is our badan, tariknya kemari. So this is our badan, tariknya kemari. Makin hampir badan kami. And when we straighten, it's makin jauh badan kami. Okay, makin jauh dari badan kami. So that's what you can see there. Okay. So if we go back to here, right? So since biceps are responsible for bending or flexing of the forearms, hence it is also known as the flexor muscle. So of course, okay. So when you flex, so this muscle is now what we call the flexor muscle. Okay, and when your tricep is known to extend your arms, so straighten your arms, so it's extending your arm. So now whenever this muscle contracts, this is what we call as the extensor muscle. So we have different names. So flexor muscle, extensor muscle. It simply means bicep, tricep. Okay, and these muscles are attached to the body by means of tendons. Bicep and triceps have two different tendons for attachment to their respective bones. So apa maksudnya? Biceps 2 point of attachment to the scapula and 1 point of attachment to the radius. Okay, we just go through this first. And triceps, 2 points of attachment of scapula, 1 point of attachment to the humerus, and 1 point of attachment to the ulna. So what the hell is this? It's actually talking about this. Okay, so maksudnya di mana ia punya tempat-tempat, how do they actually attach to the bones? So ni tendonnya ni, ini yang dia cakap, the points of attachment to the bones. So this is the muscle, our biceps. Ada ia attach arah mana? Satu attach arah sini, one attachment to our radius. Okay, and we have two attachment arah mana? Two attachment arah our humerus. Okay, so it's attached to radius and humerus. Whereas here, for our tricep, it has two attachments. Okay, two attachments arah our so it's actually it's not properly seen there. So perhaps I could see it better here. Okay, so there's actually attachment satu arah ia punya shoulder, arah scapula. So this is scapula. Scapula ada attachment di sini. So you can see there. right? And there's also attachment here as well. So you can see, and also it's not quite seen there, but probably from here, you can see the attachment here, okay? Arah sini ni, right? So those are the attachment, the tendons here. Where do they actually attach to the bones? Okay. Oh, wait, where is it? No. Oh, right. So the next part, okay, the next part that we're gonna look at is the joints. Okay, so joints is the pertemuannya. Okay, so as you can see here, there are two main types of joints, what we call as immovable joints found in the bones of cranium, and synovial joints, or what we call is the movable joints. So ada dua jenis joints, pertemuan. Satu yang boleh bergerak-gerak, synovial. Satu yang tidak boleh bergerak. Contohnya arah kami punya kepala, our skull, right? And there's actually, yang kami mesti tahu, types of joints yang bergerak, the synovial joints-nya, yang kami mesti tahu, ball and socket, and hinge joint. Okay, dua ni kami mesti tahu, ball and socket and hinge joint. Pasal apa kami mesti tahu? Pasal ia ada arah tangan kami, sama ia ada arah tangan kami sini. So ball and socket and hinge joint. So that's why we should know. But there are actually quite a lot more of joints that you can see, which is here. Okay, so these, as you see from the diagram here, these are actually all example of synovial joints. So you see arah shoulder, sini, and actually it's the same type of joints that you can find arah kamu punya pelvis kamu, arah pertemuan kaki kamu, right? So here, they are all ball and socket joints. Okay, there are other joints as well. So your pivot joint, arah leher kamu, pusing kemari, right? You have your hinge joint. Hinge joint is this. You actually have your saddle joint. Saddle joint arah mana? Arah sini, semani. Okay, this is saddle joint. You also have a condyloid joint. Condyloid joint macam boleh semani. And you have a plane joint. So plane joint maksudnya you can satu. Okay. So arah kaki kamu dapat kaki kamu cani, right? So those is the plane joint. So these are all example of synovial joints. Okay, the movable joints, right? But the ones that we should know is ball and socket and hinge joint. So ini yang kami mesti tahu saja. Okay, so if you go back to here, okay, so I will have a look later. So firstly, we look at our ball and socket. What does it say? It allows movement in all planes in 360. So backward, forward, and sideways. They are found at shoulders and hips. So as you can see, ia boleh cemani ke belakang, ke depan, ataupun ke sini. Right? So these are ball and socket. Arah mana? Arah shoulder sama arah kami punya pinggang kami. Right? And hinge joint allow movement in one plane, bending and straightening. Ini cuma ni saja. Indah ya dapat kami kesiringkan ke depan ke belakang dia boleh. Cuma ni saja. Right? So this is what we call as the hinge joint. Arah mana? Arah elbow sama arah kami punya knee, okay, arah lutut, kepala lutut kami, okay, right, so our kepala lutut. This one here is, if we look at the structure of our synovial joint, okay, if we look closely at the joints here, so this is what we can see, kita punya cross sections now. So this is one bone, we have another bone here, and this is probably the connections arah the hinge joint, arah sini. Okay. So ada tulang. As you can see, there is a cap, a white fibrous tissue here. A white fibrous tissue is what we call ester. cartilage. Okay, yang ni yang saya bagi tahu last time yang macam tulang ayam. Okay, yang nyaman untuk dimakan macam keras juga tapi lembut juga. Okay, so this cartilage. Wow, therefore this cartilage ni is essentially acting as a cushion. Ia macam cushion. Okay, cushion supaya apa? Supaya tulang kami ni, yang tulang dua atas sini ni, 1 sama 2 ni, okay, kan kalau tulang bergerak ia akan bergisel. So kalau nya bergisel tulang ni sakit. So apa kami buat? Kami bagi cartilage, the soft tissue, supaya kalau bergiselnya tu pun lembut-lembut, bergisel nyaman bergisel. Okay, and surrounding the areas here, they would be surrounded by what we call as the synovial membrane. Okay, so this is the synovial membrane, and dalam the synovial membrane ada apa? They actually have the synovial cavity, essentially space. Okay, synovial cavity containing synovial fluid. Now, what does this fluid for? Air kira maksudnya. Okay, dalam sini arah pertemuan itu sudah kan bagi cushion. Lepas itu arah ujung-ujung pertemuan itu lagi cakapnya ada airnya. Simpannya macam dibaginya air. Right? So what are these air for? This is to act as a lubricant. Okay, so to act as a lubricant maksudnya macam pelincin. Okay, supaya kalau nya bergisel cartilage atau kira kalau nya bergisel atau indaluan macam frictionnya tu luan banyak. So giselnya tu macam licin saja, nyaman saja, slides masuk manis saja. Okay, so that's what the synovial fluids are for. And the synovial fluid supaya dia tumpah-tumpah kalau kamu berjalan, simpannya arah synovial membrane, baginya macam plastic bag. Okay, and the whole thing would be encapsulated, okay, arah what we call as joint capsule. So it's simply macam kena simpan, kena tukup saja. Okay, so everything is there, right? So as you see, not one, here. So as you can see, structure synovial capsule. So which one is synovial capsule? Yeah. Nah. Synovial capsule, or in other words, the joint capsule. Sini ni, yang warna grey. The joint capsule, synovial capsule is the same thing. Apa? It's a tough fibrous capsule. For what? To surround the joint, enclose the synovial membrane and fluid. Just untuk melapiskan saja. Right? So Dina, as you can see, tempat lapisannya sahaja capsule. Macam box. Kira-kira. Next, synovial membrane. So synovial membrane to secrete and enclose the synovial fluid. So Anita yang membuatkan ni synovial membrane yang macam the darker red, a very dark red. So those are actually the synovial membrane, and Anita yang membuat the synovial fluid. Ain yang sini, okay, yang warna orange, brownish, whatever. Okay, so they are the one that secretes the synovial fluid. And synovial fluid, what are they for? They act as a lubricant to reduce friction between bones during movement to provide nutrients to nearby bone surface. So again, as I said, supaya ia licin. Tulang kamu bergisel-gisel, kalau ada pelicin sakit. Okay, macam kan masuk-masuk sakit. So apa dia buat? Dia baginya pelincin. Baginya pelincin, senang masuk sliding kejap. Okay, so acting as a lubricant. So if we see here, right? So when these bones, these two bergerak, indaluan bergisel, indaluan sakit giselnya. Right? And cartilage located at the surface of the bone. So this is yang mana tadi? Yang warna putih. Okay. Acting as what? Acting as a cushion. Okay, acting as a cushion to reduce friction. So number one, to reduce friction supaya bergisel tu indah sakit banar. And second, preventing wearing off of the bone surface supaya ujung-ujung tulang tu indah capat tahakis. Okay, kalau kan tahakis pun maybe cartilage ada yang tahakis, right? And lastly, it also acts as a shock absorber. So shock absorber, di sana pelanggar ketumbuk saya di sini ni, ketumbuk tulang kamu tu indah bergisel kuat. So indah bergisel kuat artinya arah ia kena absorb oleh your cartilage. Okay, it's macam punching bag. Okay, punching bag supaya indah bergegar-gegar tulang kamu macam mana. Right? And lastly is your ligament. So ligament is the elastic connective tissue to join one bone to another. So I don't think I should have ligaments here, but you should find ligament ada kira macam from there to there. That area there is where the ligament should be. Okay, other connections di sini. Okay, yang macam sa highlight yang arang box of that. There should be where the ligament, but it's not shown here in the diagram. Right? So, right. So with that, we've actually, okay, and with that, we've actually finished the topic, right? So I will post certain questions. I will post questions to our GoFormative so you can answer that. Okay, so if you need to look, if you need my help more during the lesson, so please don't hesitate. Obviously, please don't hesitate to text me. Let me know about it. And so therefore, I leave you to this. Okay, so don't forget to do the work. Right. So thank you. See you. Bye.